Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, and thanks so much for joining us for this Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy. On the fire danger chart, clouds, moisture, and some precipitation moved in across the north slope, so high fire danger is gone up there, but continued sunny, dry conditions here has expanded the high fire danger up here in the northeast across the Yukon Flats there from the south side of the Brooks Range, a little farther south into the mountains there of the eastern interior, and then extreme fire danger now in the middle of that right across the Yukon River and Porcupine River along and south of the Porcupine River onto the northeast. And for satellite imagery today, you can see all the clear skies, sunshine, temperatures back up near 80 degrees this afternoon. Up there in the northeast, good conditions all the way back, look like into the Selawik Valley, and then you pick up some clouds there toward Kotzebue Sound on up to Kivalina. Lots of clouds, again, moisture here. Thunderstorms developing this afternoon in that white cloud area there from Arctic Village on out to the north in that area, and then thunderstorms popping up right through there near or just east of Fairbanks along the Alaska Range, and then really get isolated out through here with some showers extending southward. And that mostly the remnants of a frontal boundary that washed out here in the west overnight last night and yesterday afternoon, and then some moisture working westward here. And so a lot of clouds through here with some showers all the way down to Shelikof Strait. May add a few showers around Kodiak, basically a dry day there. And it looks like some pretty good clearing there along the North Gulf Coast. A little bit of sunshine western Copper River Basin and the southeast coast. Remnants of that good storm that rolled up the coastline late Friday night and Saturday. Right there, remnants of it right over Juneau here at 4 o'clock this afternoon. With it really washing out here, but the circulation still going earlier today, but that thing's about done. And then you got more moisture sliding up in across the southern southeast coast, keeping it unsettled there through the afternoon. Had some drier conditions clearing back here, Bristol Bay out along the coast up toward Bethel. Back into the clouds though across the Yukon Delta, Norton Sound. Next system spreading higher clouds along with the low stuff, warm front moisture down to the Pribilofs, really and weakly southward toward the Fox Islands. And then the main cold front, which is a real weak cold front. There really isn't any cold air coming in behind it, just a little bit cooler there west of Shemya. On the chart today, roughly in about this position this afternoon at 4 o'clock, warm front right through here, occluded front on up into the low center. Only 1,004 millibars, not really a big wind producer here yet, but it will be as it comes in toward the coast. So looking for small craft advisories tomorrow here along the west coast, St. Lawrence Island into the Bering Strait. Otherwise, a weak trough right through here, and again, more clouds, cooler conditions, moisture for the north slope and the Arctic coast. Cool high pressure there right off the east side of the coast, or right off the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline there, with the thunderstorms kicking off here over the Brooks Range mainly, and possibly on out to the extreme eastern north slope areas, and then through the interior along the Alaska Range northward, with just clouds and a few isolated showers, especially along the Alaska and Aleutian ranges there into Shelikof Strait to possibly Kodiak Island. High pressure and dry conditions. Consider there are some areas of lower clouds that aren't showing up as well on this as they should, but there. It's not quite as clear as what that shows. And then the precipitation still going here, mostly with this band of moisture coming up in across the southern southeast coast, and the showers a little bit more active this morning than they are this afternoon here with that washing out low up over the north. And for tonight, even though surface high pressure seems to be in over the area, those showers will just keep on hanging on there, leftover moisture, especially central and southern areas. But they will be in a decreasing mode, especially after midnight. By tomorrow morning, they may be over or just about over. Otherwise, decreasing showers here over the interior. I may be clearing it out a little too soon up here eastern Brooks Range area, but should be dry for most of the night once those showers taper off here in the next couple of hours. Low clouds and fog, possible eastern Arctic coast, isolated showers up through here, otherwise pretty dry here even in the west. And then southwest flow, low clouds, fog coming up to the coastline, maybe some drizzle there from Kipnuk on, or from Macoriac, Nunivak Island on down to the south, with the main precipitation field of light rain, fog, and drizzle from the Pribilofs northward there into the Bering Strait. Look for a pickup in the winds there as that front approaches from the south. Again, small craft advisories coming into the picture, and this frontal boundary trailing off to the western Aleutians for some rain out there, and westerly winds not all that brisk for the Aleutians. And then for tomorrow, that system comes inland, or comes up to the coastline, but a split in the wind flow here again really slows it down as it comes in. Will begin to weaken, but still looking for small craft advisories in advance of the front there along the coast. And rain and fog continues as it really slowly progresses eastward here as it gets into that split wind flow aloft there for the Pribilofs. Warm front type weather down for the eastern Aleutians. The main front staying north of the western central Aleutians, except for Shimmy and Attu. You'll still be in the maybe the rain field there, although it'll be light. Winds not too bad. Light winds, light and variable winds here for the Gulf of Alaska, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound areas, and even Kodiak Island. Nothing much in the way of wind, as well as the southeast coast here. A dry day now, showers over, and look for some pretty good sunshine over the areas in toward the border, but low clouds and fog may keep it a little more cloudy there along the outer coastline. Thunderstorms once again, Alaska Range across the Tanana Valley, eastern interior, up toward the Brooks Range, but probably not kicking off as far north as they did today. And but you may still get a few showers there near or just north of Arctic Village, with the main rain area back to the west on the southern slopes of the western Brooks Range. Otherwise, maybe a VFR tomorrow afternoon, VFR day weather-wise here, with that offshore flow for the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline. And then for taking a look at Tuesday, we'll see this front as it comes inland, split flow really weakens it down to a trough, but a pretty good area leftover moisture here. Could see some thunderstorm activity actually on the eastern edge of that cloud field, possibly back toward the Kobuk, or the Kobuk and Selawik Valley. That's just really a very slight threat. Otherwise, showery conditions on the western edge of that, drying out along the coast, but still west-southwest flow off the Bering Sea, so lots of clouds, low clouds and fog, maybe breaking out in the afternoon, but not to any great extent. And the eastern Arctic coast, north slope, again ahead of that next trough, actually swinging in, pretty vigorous trough. Probably will kick the winds up, as well as bring a chance of rain into the central and western coast. And that'll create more offshore flow on the east side for better conditions there, and maybe warmer temperatures. 2 dry days in a row coming up for the southeast coast here, high pressure in control, but look out for the low clouds and fog, and then you pick up the showers west of Elephant Cove, particularly from Yakutat. Areas of light rain up along the North Gulf Coast due to the south to north flow here, directing all the moisture northward. And so that will definitely push across Prince William Sound into the east side of Kenai Peninsula, Passage Canal into Whittier, spilling over into Portage, and then possibly as far west as Girdwood with some moisture and showers in the Chugach Mountains. Otherwise, Cook Inlet, partly sunny, becoming mostly cloudy, clearing back to the west, and then you get in along the Kuskokwim Mountains here, back to the west with that rain field. Otherwise, Tanana Valley looking really good. 40-mile country, 70s, maybe lower 80s here, all the way to the north there toward Old Crow. And out to the west, trough keeps IFR, fog, drizzle, very typical summer pattern there for the Pribilofs into the eastern Aleutians. Pretty good though for the Alaska Peninsula. Kodiak Island not bad, right on the edge of this moisture here for the east side, so it could go either way. And then the next storm bringing 25 to 30 knot winds into the far western Aleutians with a widespread area of rain and fog, with it spreading into Adak, but not quite making it to Atka until early Tuesday evening. Temperatures around the southeast coast today, again stuck in the 50s with the clouds and precipitation both north and south, although getting up to 67 there at Skagway, 63 in Yakutat, but mid to upper 50s everywhere else. Lower to mid 60s North Gulf Coast, just 60 at Portage, 62 Seward, 64 down at Homer, and near 70 in the Susitna and Matanuska Valleys today, 71 there at Gulkana, upper 70s for the Tanana Valley near Fairbanks. at Fairbanks. Eagle near 80. Same thing for Fort Yukon. Sunshine there. More clouds as you head west. Temperatures fall into the lower 70s and upper 60s. 58 Anatuvik, and lower to mid 40s. Central eastern Arctic coast. Inland mid 50s, but again much cooler here across the north slope, down from the 70s you had. And upper 50s, lower 60s in the northwest. 75 McGrath, 73 at Sleepmute, to near 70 at Bethel. Otherwise 50s and 60s along the coast. 57 at Gamble, and 60s out there over the Aleutians. Warm sector here. Lower to mid 60s, 63, not quite the mid 60s there for Atka. 62 also for Sandpoint, and 66 there at Chignik. 74 in King Salmon, 59 Kodiak. Lows tonight, mid 50s here, central interior, falling back to near 40 or the upper 30s, Arctic coast, lower 50s, southeast coast, south central Alaska, upper 40s, lower 50s for the Aleutians and the Bering Sea. And for highs tomorrow, much like today, lower 70s, central interior, upper 70s to lower 80s on the east side, and 60s to near 70 south central Alaska, with 60s. Should be warmer there for the southeast coast. Most everyone should rise into the 60s tomorrow, and upper 50s to near 60 for the Alaska Peninsula and Aleutians. Cooler here through the northern Bering Sea and the northwest coast. And for IFR, Bering Strait southward to the Pribilofs to west of Nikolsky, and here from the east side of Kodiak Island on up to southern Prince William Sound. Marginal VFR across all of the Panhandle, but that should improve tomorrow afternoon considerably, with that pulling near or off the coast, so going VFR with more sunshine. Marginal VFR for the North Gulf Coast, southern Cook Inlet, east side of Kodiak Island. Good VFR in the interior, and of course the IFR, that front coming into the west. And VFR there, central eastern Arctic coast. Anatuvik, VFR, same forecast for Adigan. Pass is really looking good tomorrow in all areas. Rainy, Lake Clark, Merrill, windy. Chance of a thunderstorm, Isabel, windy, Mentasta. Otherwise, all VFR. Tanita VFR now. Portage, VFR to start with, could become marginal in the afternoon. And Chilcoot and White could start out marginal, becoming VFR during the morning. And for the freezing levels, really warm out here over the Bering Sea to the Aleutians, 12 to 14,000 feet. A little cooler, still about 8,000 feet, not all that low over the Panhandle. And for the icing threats, of course, with the front coming in, areas of rime icing through this zone, really just very light here down toward the eastern Aleutians. Possible mixed icing with the showers and thunderstorms that develop over the eastern interior. Upper level wind flow chart, westerly flow, so those storms coming out of the Russian Far East are pretty good out in this area. Then as they get into the coast, they stall and wash out with that split right through here. Upper high pressure over the southeast interior, 9,000 feet southwest, pretty good, 40 to 45 knots south-southwest along the coast ahead of that front, and some breezy conditions in across the western interior, turned westerly at 25, and then for 3,000 feet, pretty good winds here, 30 to 40 knots along the west coast, behind the front turning west and diminishing. Light variable winds across the Panhandle, not too bad here over the central and eastern interior of the Arctic coast, south to 25. Turbulence right along where the winds are here along the west coast and also along the Kuskokwim Mountains. Light to isolated moderate chop making it eastward to the western Alaska range. Otherwise smooth, southeast interior and Panhandle, maybe a little bumpy way out west. And after the break, I'll be back with the ice edge and the marine forecasts.
A gust of wind, a rise in temperature, a drop in humidity. These changes in the weather might have a little effect on our daily lives, but during a wildfire, they can mean trouble. When unexpected weather changes cause a wildfire to shift directions or become more intense, the consequences can be devastating. Perhaps nobody knows this better than Bob Salee. At 17, he was trained to be a smoke jumper for the U.S. Forest Service, one of the firefighters who parachutes onto the scene of a wildfire. He had no idea that on his very first jump, he would face one of the most infamous firefighting tragedies in U.S. history. A small fire was burning in Man Gulch, a steep valley in the northern Rockies. Bob was one of 15 smoke jumpers set in to put it out on a very hot, very dry day in 1949.
When we got there, the fire was about 30 or 40 acres burning along the top of the ridge. You could see flames in a few places, but mostly it was just smoke. It didn't look like it was going to be a very tough situation at all.
But without warning, a change in the weather turned a fire that was manageable into a monster. Historians have speculated that a thunderstorm passed over and the updrafts that it generated sent the fire roaring into the gulch. Bob and his team were suddenly facing an enormous and deafening fire.
The fire was probably 50 or 75 yards behind us. It was coming really fast.
With the fire racing toward them, Bob and his friend, Walt Rumsey, desperately looked for a way out. In the smoke and the chaos, somehow they stumbled upon a path which led them up the gulch.
When I got to the top, there was a lot of smoke and a lot of heat, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to make it or not.
But amazingly, Bob and Walt survived. 12 smoke jumpers and a forest ranger were not so fortunate.
I guess we were just the luckiest people alive that day, and the other fellows ran out of luck.
The Man Gulch incident remains one of the most notorious fire weather disasters. But deadly shifts in the weather are still surprising fire crews today. Arizona, June 26, 1990. Firefighters battling the so-called Dude Fire were shocked by unexpected winds. The strong winds sent fire spreading rapidly in all directions. 6 firefighters were fatally trapped in its flames. 4 years later in Colorado, sudden strong gusts struck again, killing 14 firefighters on the South Canyon fire. There was no chance for escape when 200-foot flames blew straight for them. These are the stories that wildland firefighters think of with dread. They show just what can happen when you don't know what the weather around a fire is going to do.
Weather is a key component to fire spread, and the firefighters on the ground are obviously concerned about what the fire is going to do in any particular time.
So today, when a wildfire breaks out, even the most experienced firefighters won't make a move without consulting a key member of their team, the Incident Meteorologist, or IMET. IMETs are the National Weather Service specialists who are the on-the-ground weather experts for firefighters. There are only 63 of them in the country. The IMETs are there because the fire crews don't want to find themselves in the path of a fire while they're trying to fight it.
They're there to watch out for the safety of the crew.
When wildland firefighters are called into action, an IMET is assigned to join them at the fire camp. The IMET sets up a small weather office on the scene and will be on call 24 hours a day as the fire rages. Passing on forecasts to the firefighting team so they can plan their attack.
It's cool and moist under that.
When the IMETs get up in front of the group to give weather briefings, everyone pays attention.
There's the very real possibility that some of those eyes you look into in the morning shift briefing, if you make the wrong call, they might not be there the next morning.
With lives on the line and time working against them, IMETs have to make some grueling decisions that can mean the ultimate success or failure of a firefighting mission.
The job is a lot like what I would liken to a place kicker on a football team. There are certain times when you have to come out and do exactly what it is you're trained to do and do it exactly right because the game is on the line.
IMET John Saltenberger speaks from experience. He had to step up when he was called to Washington State in 1991. The city of Spokane was surrounded by wildfire.
On the approach into the Spokane airport that evening, I remember looking out the window of the aircraft and seeing fires all over.
Northeastern Washington was under siege by a violent windstorm. 62-mile-per-hour wind gusts had sent an astonishing 92 fires raging into several neighborhoods. More than 100 homes were left in ashes, and one woman died trying to outrun the flames. The community was devastated and terrified by the thought of even more destruction. But to everyone's relief, the winds soon calmed down, and the fires calmed down too. Mark Labhart was the incident commander in charge of the firefighting team.
We were starting to get a handle on the fire. I was starting to feel a lot better until John came up to me and said, "Mark, I need to talk to you."
It was very bad news. John was predicting another windstorm, just as ferocious as the first one.
I think my heart just sank at that point in time.
The winds, if they came as forecasted, would certainly mean new dramatic flare-ups in the fire.
The potential for a major catastrophe was in the making.
At the time, it was only my second year as an incident meteorologist. I didn't want them to think that this was just some rookie crying wolf in the wind. I wanted them to take quite seriously the information that I had.
We were literally making million-dollar decisions on a forecast that was from a person that was fairly new.
But Mark was convinced that John's forecast was right on. He contacted the governor, who declared a state of emergency and authorized the fire team to rush in dozens of extra crews. They would be in position to protect homes if the fires got bad again. And then, everyone waited.
My stomach was turning. I slept very little.
If the winds actually materialized, it was time and money well spent. If the winds didn't materialize as forecasted, then they would look rather foolish.
It was a risk, you bet.
At first, nothing happened. But then, as John had predicted, the winds started picking up, and soon intense fires were being stirred up again by an all-out windstorm. This time, with the extra crews in place, not one more life or home was lost. And John, the rookie incident meteorologist who made the conclusive forecast, was a hero.
There was a lot of high fives for John. There was a lot of pats on the back for John.
When you're able to forecast those things and they take action on it, everybody looks good.
In response to a recent surge in catastrophic wildfires, the National Weather Service, part of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, has doubled the number of incident meteorologists on staff. IMETs are also trained to go to the scene of other incidents that could need on-site weather information, oil spills, search and rescue missions, or terrorist attacks.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis showing a shrinking area of ice, some of this 4 to 6 tenths, but much narrower area than yesterday. And open water to the north of that, or sea ice free water to the north of that, and then a big area open water here progressing northward. The whole ice edge kind of shifting north from its position yesterday. Of course, it'll continue melting. This may disappear here before the end of the week. And for the southeast coast tomorrow, southeast winds up to 15 knots, seas 4 to 5 feet. Westerlies at 15, seas 3 feet over the inside waters. South 10, Stevens Passage, up to 20 knots, Northern Lynn Canal. With Tuesday's outlook, small craft advisories on the north coast, southeast becoming east, 25 knots, seas building to 7 feet. 20 knotters here, south central coast and the south coast, south at 15. Light northwesterlies for Clarence Strait, light southeasterlies for Stevens Passage. No change for Northern Lynn Canal. Prince William Sound, variable at 10 tomorrow with pretty light winds. Easterly, 15 here for the North Gulf Coast, up to 20 there for the Barrens. Kachemak Bay, northeast 20. Shelikof Strait, east side of Kodiak. Southwest, 15 for Cook Inlet, but north of the Forelands, southerlies at 15. And then for Tuesday, we've got light variable winds all through Cook Inlet, Kachemak Bay through Shelikof Strait, light and variable. Northeast 20 there, east side of Kodiak, up into the western Gulf Coast, and then small craft advisories, again with that frontal boundary coming northward, kicking those winds up to 25 knots and building the seas to 7 feet, but conditions stay light in Prince William Sound. For Bristol Bay, south 15, southerlies 20 knots here in the north side of the peninsula, otherwise east 15, south side becoming northeast 20 towards Sitkinak. Then for Tuesday, light variable winds from Castle Cape to Cape Sarachev, north side, southwest 15, right up across Bristol Bay, seas 3 to 5 feet. Northeast, Sitkinak to Castle Cape at 15, 5-foot seas. And for the Fox Islands, southwest 15 to 20 knots, strongest winds on the north side with seas only 4 to 5 feet, 4 to 6 foot seas with west southwesterlies 15 to 20 for the central Aleutians. And then 20 knot winds from Medak on out to Shimei and Attu. Seas only 6 feet though. And then with that next storm coming in, pretty good pickup in the winds right now. Looks like staying below gale force. South 30 becomes southeast 30 knots to the west, but seas 13 to 15 feet out there, so quite an increase in the sea heights. Otherwise, west 20, still 4 to 5 foot seas there, and 4 to 6 foot seas with light west-southwest breezes all the way across Unalaska Island. And for the coast tomorrow. Small craft advisories actually could kick in late tonight. Southerlies 25 to 30 knots, dropping off behind the front, but not all that much. Southwest 25, still pretty brisk there for the Pribilofs, but much lighter up towards St. Matthew Island. And then for Tuesday, much lighter winds now, 15 knots, south-southwesterlies covering all of these areas. Seas coming down 3 to 5 feet south of Nunivak Island. Still 6 feet there for the Pribilofs, even though winds come down to 15, 4 feet St. Matthew Island. Up along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, look for southeast, 20 tomorrow, 5-foot seas. Small craft advisories there for the central coast with south 25, and then falling back to about 20, and then some good small crafts here from the Bering Strait up to Cape Beaufort, where there'll be as high as 30 knots from the southeast. And then those will turn westerly and diminish 15 to 20 there in the west, but still looking at small craft advisories for the west coast and west-southwest, 25 knots for just about all of the central and eastern, well, just about all the Arctic coastline to demarcation point with 5 to 6 foot seas. Tonight, thunderstorms, showers ending up there, tending to clear out. Same pattern here, but kind of lingering a little longer. And showers definitely hanging on to the panhandle, but they're all in decreasing mode now. High pressure trying to take over. This front coming in toward the coast. Tomorrow brings rain into the west, really slows down, starts the weekend, gets into split flow conditions aloft. High pressure in along the coast. Dry day tomorrow, more sunshine, temperatures in the 60s. Temperatures back 75 to 80 eastern interior, scattered thunderstorms, isolated showers here. Southern Alaska, but rain extending eastward there, maybe as far east as to just north of Bettles. And then for the next day, moisture comes northward. So pretty wet along the North Gulf Coast, showers to Yakutat, dry day for the Panhandle, showers and rain and clouds here in the west, and more moisture out over the Aleutians.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.